Welcome to the program. My name is Marty Shenkman. I'm joined by a colleague, Thomas Tietz. And from the visual on the screen, you can tell who the IT consultant is. With the lumberjack shirt, Brian Cluxton. We're going to try to give you a really practical and I think really important presentation on something I've never really heard talked about, and I think is kind of left out of most planning discussions. So let me just do the quick introduction stuff, and then we'll jump in. But I really do hope and believe this will be a big help to many of you. We don't provide formal CLE. You'll get a certificate to the email address that you registered with if you can self-report. If you miss anything, the materials and the recording of the webinar will be posted within about a week to Shenkman Law. And if you have questions, the best thing is email us. If they're tech questions, email Brian Cluxton. Don't email me because I probably won't understand. And let me start with just a little more of an introduction. And some of this will be in the slides, but I think just talking more casually to get it going, like, why am I doing this program? And what do we hope to help you with your clients with this program and help clients indirectly through all of you as advisors? Most advisory firms have taken material actions in recent years and continue to do so to protect themselves from cybersecurity, to have proper backups and so on. We're not really talking about what firms do. We've done other webinars on that. You'll see them on the webinar library, and maybe we'll do more in the future. But we as practitioners have taken steps, but the weak link in all of this is often the clients. And I know accountants have done a masterful job of almost forcing their clients to use secure portals to upload tax information. But I do hear that they face some of the same issues that we as lawyers face. No matter what you offer to clients, we have a secure portal, we offer it to everybody. We see emails with tax returns, with financial statements that have account numbers and all sorts of confidential data. So even though we as practitioners, and let's give us all the benefit of doubt, have done what we're supposed to do in terms of security, does it mean the clients have? And in a lot of cases, the answer is no. And it's not just email. Backup of data. I was talking to a client about a month ago. She had a very large real estate operation, shopping centers and other facilities. All of her documentation's in paper. Nothing's been scanned. Think of the wildfires in California, the hurricanes in North Carolina, in Florida. My gosh, if there's a physical disaster, she'll never recover. She has no safety net of data. So what do we talk to clients about? And I think the first point to resistance is, well, I'm not a techie. That's why we have Brian, right? I'm not a techie. I'm a lawyer. I'm an accountant. I'm a financial advisor. I don't want to get involved in telling somebody what to do from a technological standpoint. I don't think that thought that we should point out issues, make suggestions, or encourage a client to hire an IT person, that's beyond the scope of our involvement. I think it's a tremendous value add to protect clients. I'm not an insurance consultant, but I don't believe I ever have a meeting with a client and I don't talk about excess liability coverage and making sure that they've reviewed with their insurance consultant the coverage they have, right? You're on boards of directors. Do you have separate coverage? Does your homeowners cover it? We all engage in asset protection type discussions. We all engage in ancillary discussions because we need to take a holistic view of estate planning. My proposition is what we're going to talk about, and Brian's going to explain all the technical stuff, not me or Tom. But what we're going to talk about is going to help you broach this really vital ancillary topic with clients. And I think whatever profession you're in, it's an opportunity to give a huge value add to the client. And may I say, and I'm struggling with this right now, that we as practitioners may have all these safety nets and protocols in our practice. Do we have them at home? How have you backed up your home data? What security do you have? What email address are you using? And we're going to talk about all that. So I just wanted to belabor the introduction because I didn't want someone to sort of tune out, like, what relevance is this to me? I'm an attorney. I'm a tax attorney. Why would I want to know about this? I really think we need to. I'm not saying it's a standard of practice. I'm not saying it's required, but boy, you can really provide a value add to a client. And I think that'll become more clear as we go. Tom, just by way of example, one of the issues is elder financial abuse, and some of the protocols and protections that we might suggest to clients may mitigate that. And I think while everybody focuses on estate tax, and hey, we don't even know, maybe the Trump administration will eliminate the estate tax, never know. Um, Talk for a minute about elder abuse and the importance of addressing that, and then we'll tie it back into tech.
So one of the things that Marty during his introduction mentioned was weakest link. And when it comes to bad actors, cyber criminals, just regular criminals, they're always looking for the weakest link. And fortunately, elder financial abuse is one of the ways that people are most taken advantage of. So it, as you can see here, has become a greater and greater problem. FinCEN estimated 27 billion in suspicious activity that was related to elder financial abuse. That's more than the entire amount that the federal government took in estate tax in 2022. So as practitioners, this is, like Marty said, a value add that we can bring in by discussing it with our clients. What have you done to protect yourself? What protocols do you have in place where if something happens, you could be dealt with? It's just like talking with our clients about letters of instruction. What should you tell your fiduciaries if you're incapacitated? Well, elder financial abuse is something that can happen before somebody's fully incapacitated, but when they're starting to fade. And as practitioners, being understanding of that, paying attention to it, we can help our clients in this situation. And cyber crime and cyber protection, cybersecurity is just one facet of the entire whole when it comes to protecting against elder abuse.
Many of us as practitioners are a bear maker. Um, and we have to be conscious of how dangerous the environment is out there. I'm sure each of you, like I, get emails not infrequently from colleagues or firms that we know and work with saying that their database has been hacked or breached. And you feel terrible for them because what a nightmare to go through, not to mention the cost and the impact. But what have clients done, right? So we most I don't want to say anything incorrect, but many professional firms have taken fairly significant measures to protect themselves. What about the clients? Tom?
So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, that clients are the targets of bad actors. And this is another very scary statistic here. Since 2019 to 2023, they tripled the losses that the FBI had reported when it comes to cybercrime. It was 12.5 billion in 2023. So not as quite as much as the estate tax, but growing quickly, and I'm sure it's going to eventually pass it at some point. The weak links are there. Let's move on, Mark, because we kind of made this point already. So what can you as a firm put in place to help protect your clients? And we have a couple of different ideas here and thoughts to consider. You're not the only person that's interacting with your clients. Your staff is, your admin assistant, your paralegal, your other associates. Train them on the kinds of things that they can see in clients that they're starting to fade. Because if they are losing some of their capacity, if they are at a weak point, then they may be more susceptible to cybercrime. And maybe you want to talk with them about, hey, maybe you should put some additional protections in place. Maybe this is something that you should consider. Having things for your staff to find in those clients can make a big difference there. You as a practitioner can also obtain information from that client on a trusted contact. Now, we do something similar. Maybe it's the agent under a power of attorney, and practitioners would often say have that information or at least request that information. Make sure that the client authorizes you to reach out to that person if you have a concern, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do so. So this is just a way for us to build in value adds for our clients. And this isn't just for attorneys, it could be for accountants, it could be for financial advisors as well. Now, I think you went two ahead, Marty, rather than just one
That's
ahead
all
right
right.
there.
That's okay. Let me talk about digitizing. Brian, before we go on to the next thought, do you want to? I'm relying on you to give us all the answers in a few minutes. But do you want to comment
Yeah.
at all on what you see in the world with how all these potential problems affecting clients who don't have the protections and protocols that the professionals have in their firms? And I bet a lot of the professionals at home don't have it. Any thoughts or comments?
Right. Yeah, so I mean I've been doing this since 2001, so quite a number of years. And the where cybersecurity has changed, I mean uh, like every aspect of cybersecurity has changed since 2001, and it's accelerating even as we speak with artificial intelligence. And so the threats are constantly evolving, and it's the whole world and the country essentially is like playing catch up all the time, right? We're never ahead of this stuff. We're always behind it. And I'm not talking about just me. I'm talking about, the entire industry, all businesses, and a lot of people. A lot of businesses don't take this stuff seriously until they've had a breach. I see that all the time. And then, that's great that they're finally doing something about it, but it could have been prevented. Um, I will say that like I've encountered a lot of different law firms and other businesses over the years, and every time there's been a a serious cybersecurity issue, there has been an obvious preventable cause. Okay. Now, so when the proper things are in place from a security perspective, and I'm at this point, I'm not referring to their clients, I'm talking about just the business itself. While no one can guarantee 100% protection, it's very unlikely with the proper security in place that you would have a serious cybersecurity incident. But it's not just a set it and forget it thing either. It has to be, things that I recommend to you and other customers now didn't recommend 5 years ago because the threats have changed, and that's going to change again. I'm sure that we'll have new recommendations in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But then, so the businesses are not always prepared. It's getting better, but there's still a lot out there that are not. And then clients, especially, have a lot of my customers are estate planning and elder law attorneys, and so obviously they're in the dealing with the sort of population you're talking about, and they typically know very little about the internet, how dangerous it can be. And so, they're sending, yes, I've seen tax returns, emailed and have gotten hacked, federal ID numbers, social security numbers, and worse, through like social engineering, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and phishing emails, where people are basically opening the door unknowingly to the bad actors and stealing thousands or more of money. And it's gone. It's like there is nobody that can get it back for you. It is absolutely gone. And so it's scary stuff. Yeah.
And I think given the risk, and it can be really significant sums of money, and also the feeling of being violated and not knowing how far it's
Yeah.
gone, if we address asset protection planning, if we talk even tangentially about insurance coverage, we should also think about making part of the conversation cybersecurity and some of the other ancillary things that we're going to talk about now. Let me tell you what I think should be done. And I don't know how many people have done it, but it dawned on me years ago. And I'll be honest, Brian is our IT consultant. I hired Brian to set up for me personally the identical level of protection that I have for the firm. For the cost involved, why take the risk? We do everything online. We're completely paperless personally, as well as in the firm. I can't risk these issues. Why wouldn't I want to protect my personal data as much as I want to protect my client data at work? And the costs, because of how the technology have improved, it's not unreasonable. Frankly, I feel, don't listen to this, Brian, cover your ear. I feel the cost is insignificant compared to the peace of mind, because I can't imagine, my gosh, what do I do if all my data is gone and people are like pulling money out of our accounts? I wouldn't want to go through that. I don't think most of my guess is, because I don't know how to find the data. I tried, and even AI couldn't answer the question. Can you imagine? AI couldn't answer the question. I feel like it, Wizard of Oz. The wizard knows everything, but AI not quite. The Do you have personally, for your personal data and internet access and everything else, the same level of protection as at work? Why not? Why not? And that's something to think about. So let me talk about digitizing for a second, and let me just set it up with an example you all see all the time. Elderly client, widower, couple, doesn't matter. They've saved, as lots of our clients do, every financial statement, income tax return, bank statement, brokerage slip for the last 30 years. And I've never seen it in fireproof, waterproof, locked file cabinets. It's usually in boxes in the attic or old file cabinets with no locks on them, and certainly not fireproof in the basement. Again, just thinking about natural disasters, that's part of the discussion. If any of that data is actually relevant, and some of it may be very helpful for estate administration, planning, basis determination, and if Trump repeals the estate tax and we end up with carryover basis, wow, we're going to need that data. But it's also so ripe to be pilfered. Somebody coming in as a HVAC, air conditioning repair person, and they're in the basement working on the furnace and they see boxes of tax returns, and they're often just labeled tax returns. What if they grab a couple of a return and stuff it in their work bag? No one's going to know. Now they got account numbers, tax ID numbers, everything. If all that data can merely be digitized, right, and saved on an encrypted laptop, backed up to the cloud, if there's a natural disaster, which seems to be occurring constantly, that data is protected. If somebody comes into their house, they're not going to have the password to get on an encrypted laptop. The data is safe. And also, just from a practical, personal perspective, we have conversations with aging clients about downsizing and moving to safer homes because they can't manage stairs anymore. That's part of the estate planning discussion we all have with some clients. How are you going to move all those boxes of stuff? And Brian, you can comment. When we did this, my wife and I did it the long way because I didn't want to just pay someone to scan. Like what we had was almost 50 boxes of stuff in our attic. I went through it and culled out what we needed, shredded what we didn't need, and then we scanned and saved in appropriate ways so we could identify the data. For most people, that's not going to be practical. They're not going to spend the time. So, Brian, do you know anything about any of the services that can come in and just mass scan and dump on a hard drive and shred documents? Have you dealt with that at all?
Yeah, I mean, for larger businesses that have, bankers' boxes full of documents going back, who knows how long. There are companies such as like Iron Mountain and some other ones that that's the first one that comes to my mind. But they'll come in and for a fee they'll scan all that stuff and then provide it to you electronically and then destroy it. And on a much smaller scale, it really just depends upon how tech savvy the people are, how many documents they have. I mean, you can take them to various places around the country, small businesses like Staples, I think may still do this. They used to. I think they may still do it. Yeah. I don't know if they still do, but it's not that difficult to find. Or if you have the time and you want to do it yourself, it's not expensive to get a decent scanner and do it yourself as well.
And I have found that this is overwhelming for most clients. The best approach is what Brian said. We used Iron Mountain on just the last legs of when our office went paperless. It's a well-known national company, bonded, insured, all the stuff. They send you a hard drive with all your data on it. They shred everything so it's clearly gone. And they do, I forgot what it is, but the kind of shredding, slicing, dicing so nobody can repiece it together. And they give you like a little certificate saying everything's been safely shredded and here's all your data. And then they should have a computer consultant get that data onto maybe a laptop, but also to a cloud portal for backup. So it's not just a physical embodiment of the data. I think encouraging clients that have these massive amounts of data to get it done makes a world of sense. And if for nothing else, it's not only age, it's not only elder abuse. think of the fires in California. I mean, it's just, you feel it in your gut when you see this stuff on TV. These people had nothing left, and it's not one or two people, it's massive numbers of people. Any data they had is gone forever. What a benefit to have had it all scanned and in the cloud. So I think this is part of the conversation we should all be having.
I just want to make one quick point on digitization, Marty. So when it comes to what we've already talked about and what we are talking about, this could be very overwhelming. There's a lot of topics and a lot of concern with cybersecurity. If you have an older client, somebody that hasn't dealt with this before, starting to go through this list with them, they're going to get very overwhelmed very quickly. Digitization is something tangible. It's something that's sitting in their basement. It's probably annoying them as we speak, having all of those boxes down there. This is something that can get them started on the road to better cybersecurity. It's something that they can feel good as they watch the boxes disappear. After that's done, then you can start broaching the topic of greater security. This is like the first of bite-sized chunks the clients can use to really start making themselves safer.
Let me just add a couple of quick points. This, what Tom just said and what we just talked about, demonstrates that this is not only about email security. It's a much bigger topic, and it integrates with planning for aging, downsizing, which most people do as they get older, with security from natural disasters. So it applies to young people as well. And many young people are already, they grew up having everything digitized, so it's not an issue. Even, and we didn't talk about it, it's not in the outline, but what about all those old family photographs and videos, right? When my parents passed away, I managed to get from whoever had them all the old, I think 8mm film reels they had. They had deteriorated. I had it all digitized, put it in a Dropbox cloud, and gave everyone in the family access to it. This is a wonderful thing for so many different aspects of a client's life. Brian, we need to talk about email security. Do you want to make some general comments about it? I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like not only is nothing safe, but it's just getting tougher and tougher. Some of the phishing things that we see, I mean, they're really, I actually emailed Tom the other day and said, this can't be real, is it? It was like that good.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people are surprised to find out that email is not encrypted like natively. If I send you an email right now and I don't tell it to encrypt it, it's going to come through in plain text. Now, so it's unlikely that like there's billions of emails sent every day around the world, right? So it's sort of like trying to drink out of a fire hose. It's essentially impossible. So it's really just the volume of that. However, if the bad actors have gotten more sophisticated at that stuff and they're scanning email traffic for words like account numbers, wire numbers, credit card numbers, like the literal text in the email, right? And they're like, oh, and they start grabbing that stuff, and that's how they're getting that. So that's a big red flag. Well, ideally people wouldn't be emailing that sort of stuff at all, right? Even encrypted, because it can be easy to forget to encrypt something, right? And it's gone, it's already out there. So when it's sensitive information, I would always recommend it's through a secure portal that is hosted or controlled by you, the law firm or the accounting firm or whatever, and then just reserve email for non-confidential information and those sorts of things. That being said, there are easy and inexpensive ways to encrypt email, and then there's also the other part related to this too is that I'm sure you guys have seen this, where some other business gets hacked, right? And you're getting legitimate emails from them, but they have like weird links. You're like, what is this, right? Those are phishing emails to the next level, because it's not really a phishing email, it's legitimate email from an account that has been compromised. And until they know that, it's sending out invalid links to everybody in their address book, hey, log in here. Well, guess what? Now, if you try to log in, they now have your credentials, and it's just it's a spiral of issues there. So email everybody needs to be particularly careful about email. Phishing email complexity and sophistication has gone way up. It used to be pretty obvious to tell. Now it's much more difficult to tell. If you get an email from Chase Bank, I've seen some that look very, very real, you know.
They copy the logos, the
Yeah,
colors, sometimes
right.
even the style of the communications from an institution. Just
Yes.
to show you how tough this is, I a couple months ago got an email, sounded real, from a well-known, well-respected New York City, not small law firm, and I something didn't feel right, and it was so well done. I can only say just my gut feel was something was amiss, and I called up a partner at the firm I know, and I said, "Have you guys been hacked?" Said, "I have no idea." He said, "Why?" And I said, "I just got this. I described it." He said, "I'll look into it." Sure enough, they were hacked, and they hadn't even known it yet. Now, how
Yeah.
many of their, and they do a lot of elder law work, how many of their older clients may have gotten sucked into it because it looked like it was from them?
Yes.
I,
I've
we,
seen
we,
that. I've seen that way too many times. And that's the real scary stuff.
and think of the liability as a practitioner. I mean, a cybersecurity policy may have $1 million limit. What if 10 clients got snookered for over 100 grand? I mean,
Right.
it's really concerning. Um,
One last point I want to make on that really quickly, Marty, is we're talking about some really good cybersecurity use that the business can use, but once again, bring it back to the weakest link. The clients themselves are the ones that are more likely to get hacked than the business. In estate planning, a lot or the majority of our clients are going to be older. They're going to be less sophisticated. They may still be using older email systems, which we'll talk about in more detail later. They may be the ones that, even though you have a secure portal, they're not going to bother using it because they feel it's beyond them. They're overwhelmed. They're just going to send you that regular email, and then they're going to get attacked by a phishing attack, and their mailbox will get compromised. Even if you have all the protections, the data is still in their mailbox in addition to yours. So the fact that it was communicated through to you, the client can still get in trouble. And that's something that we as practitioners can help our clients with by communicating to them. Look, it's not just about us, it's about you. If something happens to you, this could really hurt you, and it could really be a huge headache for you to deal with.
I'm going to flip it back to you, Brian, but just to comment on what Tom said. Some of the things that we've done, and it comes up later in the materials, but let's just say it now. We create, I made up the word cheat sheets, because that's kind of what it is to me, where we explain step by step. And it's not step by step how somebody who's tech savvy like Tom thinks. It's step by step how an old geezer like me thinks. So I don't leave out 3 steps, and Brian would leave out 8 steps because it's like all second nature. We spend the time to put together a cheat sheet that's really step by step, that a non-techie client can follow, and we put in screenshots. So not only are we saying you click on this button, there's a screenshot showing the button. The thing we haven't done, and we're rebuilding our firm website, and when we relaunch it, I want to do this, is we're going to have help video clips. They may be 3, 4, 5 minutes long, walking a client through, talking to them and telling them and showing them what to do with some of this stuff. Because I think we need to educate clients, because it's really part of what we should be doing to help them. And I think, and I'm always a zealous believer in collaboration, but if the financial advisor is making the client use a portal and the accountant is making them use a portal, they can't really give the attorney a hard time using a portal. They're kind of getting used to it. If we all sing the same tune, clients will get the message. And I think, as Brian said earlier, the rate of change of bad actor opportunities to prey on clients is just getting worse and worse, and AI is going to put that on steroids. Brian, do you want to cover whatever you think is relevant or of interest on email communications and what we can tell clients?
Well, I definitely agree with what's in the slide. I mean, yeah, Hotmail, AOL. I mean, it's fine if you're still using it for like personal use and things, but I would not use it for anything even remotely sensitive. even the free versions of Gmail and Outlook, I mean, if you read their terms of service, they say you're allowing them to scan your email for content. So like if you have a Gmail account, that's why you'll see on the promotions tab, it adds like like ads for things that you may have emailed somebody else about. And there's not literally a person at Google that's reading this stuff, but it's all through you know, automation and now artificial intelligence. So, but you're allowing them to do that. So that's the free stuff. If the paid, they don't do that. And then Microsoft 365 is used by most businesses around the world for email. Google is in there. The paid version of Google is there too. And both are very secure when set up properly. Thankfully, they are both are enforcing some default settings that they won't let you turn off for security because that was a problem with people turning things off that were really necessary. I really like the part, the bullet point there, and this was in the article too, about having different business and personal emails, because I've seen that a bunch of times where actually, I just saw it last week that a partner was leaving a firm, and he's like, "Well, I need to copy all my email," and the firm's like, "No, this is ours, not yours." He's like, "Well, I got a bunch of personal stuff in there," and they're like, "Hey, that's not our problem," So having separate email things for everybody. I mean, I would not use your employer or your own business's address for things that don't relate to the business or the employer.
Let me make a couple comments and I'll flip it to you, Tom. It's not only email, just to expand, and it may come up later, but let me just say it now. We see lots of clients, professional advisors, lawyers, accountants that come to us for estate planning. They're not only using their business email, they're saving confidential personal financial and estate planning documents on their business system.
Yeah.
Why? Think of what happens. Brian gave one great example, which always worries me. Even if you're a big producer partner, it doesn't mean politics don't change and you get fired or you decide you want to leave. How do you get all your stuff off? And if the business has done their job right in terms of backups, Brian, how many layers of backup might they have of that data that's now confidential data that the lawyer didn't realize?
I mean, typically years. Yeah.
Years.
Yeah.
So you really can't extract and remove your personal data. Unless I make a mistake, never have anything personal sent to my business email nor saved on business systems. Completely independent personal stuff from business. What if the business gets sued? And it's not only for professional clients, a business client, their business gets sued. Can you imagine you've done estate planning for a client and somebody sues them and they discover on the business computer when they're doing whatever, not due diligence, investigation. Discovery, thank you. That the clients were $25 or $50 million. Think of what that does to plaintiff's counsel. Why are you leaving personal financial statements on business computer systems? It happens all the time. That to me is an important part of the discussion. And it's really easy to know this. You don't need to have a long discussion. When the client emails you, which all clients do, even most of the older ones, look at the email address. If you see an old AOL, say, listen, you really should upgrade that and get something that's more secure. If you see it's from Smith & Jones Inc., you say to the client, why are you using a business email for personal matters? Don't do it. Think of what could happen. I think my experience is clients are grateful when you tell them this because it's like a V8 moment. They hadn't thought of it. Tom, any other comments?
I think we've covered the majority of it, but I think one of the things that we as practitioners can do is almost create a short white paper, one page, that explains a lot of these concerns to clients. Maybe have some of the statistics that we have in this slide sheet, and our article goes into further in there as well, that shows how significant this can be. Because a lot of clients, even though they may logically understand this, they don't realize how significant it can be until something happens. And, that's almost like closing the barn door after the cows have already escaped. You want to try and get this done before you have a serious problem.
Brian and Tom both said something about an article, and we never said anything about it. So I'm going to tell you what they're talking about. The three of us did an article to prepare for this webinar. It was pretty long. I don't remember how long it was. That was that's in Lineberg Information Systems. We'll post that to the portal and to our website so everybody can access it. And I think that was a great idea, Tom. What I'm going to task you with is take I think it's like a 25 or 30 page article, and get it down, boil it down to 1 or 2 pages so we can send it to clients. Because
Okay.
the 30-page article is great to send to people, but they're not, it's overwhelming. But I think we can create a high level things you should be thinking about for clients. And if you haven't done this personally, please jump on the bandwagon. You want to protect yourself. So Brian, we're getting really to your area. What Why don't you talk, and I'll just add if there's something I can think of or Tom can think of. Um, what do people do individually? Does it make sense to hire an IT consultant? I think that people should have what I've done, have the same level of protection personally as on their business, because the world's that scary. Any comments, thoughts, suggestions? What can practitioners tell their clients to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a good idea for just about everybody to have some sort of IT expert or company that they can, even if it was like once a year. And there's a lot of businesses that will do this not just for businesses, but for residential customers, where they'll just like take a quick look. It's basically like a small audit to make sure that the obvious things are being covered. COVID, when the pandemic lockdown really accelerated the threats of cybersecurity, and also increased the target area, is because you had all of a sudden you had maybe children or college kids that were home working on who knows what computers, a lot of times not secured at all, and maybe they're working next to mom or dad who is on the business computer, but that the business computer is secure, but the personal stuff is not. There's also, like, most people now have like smart TV or a smart thermostat or smart refrigerator or whatever. And so it's not just your computers, it's all these other devices. So making sure that there's a proper firewall set up. And I'm not going to say that this is like a cheap thing to do, but it's not crazy expensive. And when you consider what can happen if it's not in place, it's well worth the money to hire somebody just to have at least some security in place.
There's always been stories of someone that had like a video cam connected to the internet
Yeah,
and no security, no password, and people take it over. It's creepy. It's scary. It's
yeah,
really uncomfortable. So I think it's great advice. Now, the typical client that's hiring a financial advisor, an accountant, or attorney, they're usually at a higher net worth level than the average or below average American. I mean, the cost, if it's a couple of $1,000s, is not inconsequential for many people in the country, but for a lot of our clients, it is inconsequential. But the damage potential is huge.
mhm,
So I think it's really prudent to do. And listen, I'm not going to give a client tech advice. It's not happening. But to tell them, listen, you have an exposure with that AOL account. How are you backing up all this data? Oh, you're not backing it up just on your laptop? We have a lot of clients that do that. And what happens if the laptop blows up? Oh, I never thought about that. Hire somebody and do it. Brian, how can we suggest, like if a client, then the next question is, well, where do I find somebody that knows what they're doing or that'll do it right or I can trust?
uh well,
Other
that's
than
a
you, other
yeah
than you.
yeah, no, that's a good question, because um like with other um occupations, there may be some sort of test that you have to pass. Obviously, bar exam for attorneys, CPA exam for accountants, things like that. There's no such thing for IT people, right? Some Joe Schmo out there can be like, I'm the greatest IT person in the world and have no qualifications whatsoever. And that's not illegal. right, for that person to claim that. So it can be a challenge. So I mean, word of mouth, for sure. Talking to other people. I think it would be good for to have, you were talking about cheat sheets earlier, like to have a list of like, and I'm happy to send a list of some companies that do this. My business's focus is on business side, so we do support some users, but I'm in no way promoting myself to do this. There's larger companies that are designed specifically for this purpose to help home users, and they can do it in a to scale, so it's more affordable for most people. So I'd be happy to send that. So having a list of that, like, so who do I contact? Well, here's 3 businesses that are reputable. You could contact them and see if you want to deal with one of them. I think that'd be the best way to do it.
I think one of the things that's going to develop, my prediction, and maybe it's already here, I don't know because I haven't seen it done yet, but the financial planning world, wealth advisors keep branching out, doing more estate planning, more income tax. They keep growing the offerings of what they do because they're trying to be an all-in-one, one-stop shop service, which clients want, because what a client doesn't want to go through what we just discussed. Oh, I got to go find somebody and think about it. If financial firms aren't yet offering IT consulting, they probably will, and they probably should, because then you have control to know that the person is trustworthy, they work for you, and it may be just another profit center because that has nothing to do with wealth management. That's a separate billing. So that may be what we start to see, and boy, that's vital. I don't think there's a wealth manager out there that doesn't talk to clients about insurance coverage. What about cybersecurity and email security and all those documents that aren't digitized if there's a flood? I think if that hasn't happened, and I haven't heard that it has, I think that's coming quickly, and I think it's a great answer. Antivirus software, Brian.
Yeah, like it says there, the free version, especially on Windows, is better than it used to be, but it's no longer, in my opinion, I would definitely not recommend going without something else. And there's lots of different ones out there. Any of them are better than nothing, right? I will say though, Macs without antivirus are more secure than Windows. There is that. There's other reasons businesses and users may want to use Windows instead of Mac, but a Mac is truly more secure out of the box than Windows PC.
But the bottom line take home is that people need to do more than just rely on what came in the box. They should really get something upgraded if they want to be protected.
Yes, correct.
And is this, maybe you can explain phishing, give an example, and explain what could be done, and what steps can be taken to filter out, if that's an appropriate term, some of the phishing emails before they even get to the client.
Right. Well, to make sure that you're using a paid email program that we talked about before, the paid ones have better spam filters than the free ones. Even still, like your office, for example, has the spam filter turned up as high as it goes, and yet it's like whack-a-mole. The Microsoft or Google, whoever, will release a new update to catch new variants of spam and phishing emails, and then the next day there's some other new variant that pops up, and it's a constant battle, because they could be coming from anywhere in the world, basically. And you can spoofing is a big thing, where it'll say it's from Martin Shenkman, but if you look at the email address, it's not from you at all. It's from some random fake Gmail account or something like that. So it's basically, it's a constant battle. It's going to remain a battle for email. I mean, email was not really designed to be used in the way that the world uses it today, and especially not sending sensitive and confidential information as frequently as what occurs. So and then it's been wide open for so long that now you're talking about getting it locked down. It's always easier to lighten the security than it is tighten the security, So, and then the problems too is then people complain like, why do I have to use, a secondary password notification? So there's always a balance between making things secure, but not too secure that it's a problem for people to use.
And I think for most of our clients who are busy, successful business people or entrepreneurs or professionals or older, both of those factors, the busyness and age or health issues, which is why they're with us, makes it even harder to draw that balance that Brian's talking about. And I don't think we have to get into that nuanced of a discussion. I think that's beyond what maybe we need to do as professionals, but we do need to bring up the points that we're making with clients so that they can protect themselves. Tom, why don't you just quickly explain the attacks on 21, and Brian, and jump in with any comments on what people can do, or if Tom doesn't get it quite right, you can smack him and
No,
correct him.
Tom knows as much about this a lot of this stuff as I do, honestly.
Oh,
He's
I appreciate that, Brian. That's high praise from you right there. So I just want to say one quick thing about phishing, because I think it's a great example for us as professionals to use when engaging with clients. Phishing is something that everybody has seen, so they kind of understand it. But you can bring AI in as part of the discussion because it's really supercharged what's happened with phishing. A statistic I saw was since the end of 2023, when AI really became prevalent, the amount of phishing attacks has increased by 1,200%, so 12 times. That is what they're trying to do. This isn't about having the one perfect email that comes through that gets everybody. It's a shotgun approach. They're throwing as much as they can against the wall to make it stick. They're also smart. These are not people that don't know what they're doing. The vast majority of phishing emails come through at 3 o'clock on a Friday. When you're at the end of the work week, it's been a long week, maybe your guard is down a little bit, and you're just trying to get through the rest of the work week. That's when they send most of this. That's a message that you can bring to your clients to say, look, you're a smart person. You've built this business. You've done this for the last 30 years. You know what you're doing. But they know what they're doing too, and they try and get you at the one point where maybe your guard is down. And these additional scams are a perfect example of this. QR ishing. So since COVID, a lot of us have seen that there are now QR codes. Like you go to a restaurant, they don't give you a physical menu because people don't want to touch physical menus anymore. They tell you, look at this QR, take a picture of this, it brings you to the menu. Well, what people do now is they take a sticker of their QR and they put it right over that other QR code. So when you scan that and you click that link, it's bringing you to the bad actors link that's now installing something on your phone that compromises you. This is something that when I saw it, it was like that V8 smack your head kind of moment. Oh my God, I never even thought of that. I was scanning QR codes like it wasn't a big deal previously. I never scan a QR code anymore. It's just not worth the risk. Or at least you feel it to see if there's a sticker over it. So that's one of, yeah, even then, it's not really worth the risk there. Smishing. That is,
Tom, 1 second. Think about what's on your cell phone, right? Most of us have all our business email, our business calendar. There's a lot of data on a cell phone. Do you want to risk taking a picture of a potentially compromised QR code because that's what they tell you? I remember I was at an airport not so long ago, and I was desperate for I wanted a cup of coffee. And when I went to the place in the terminal, it was just what Tom described. You scan the QR code, takes you to the menu, you order online, click, and then they prefer you even just pay online and you're done. I skipped my cup of coffee. I wasn't going to take the chance. There's just too much data on your phone. So be really careful. Tom?
so smishing. This is text phishing, basically. So this is when you get the text, this is the IRS, you need to pay taxes, reach out to us at this number. Marty laughed about that. Yes, it's a very simple thing that usually when you see, you're like, oh, this is obviously fake. But once again, shotgun approach. They're sending out millions, hundreds of millions, billions of these texts. And an older individual, at the end of the day, they're tired, they may get this and they may freak out. Actually, this will be for phishing. So smishing is once again just a really catch and release. They're trying their best, and it obviously works because they wouldn't continue doing it if they didn't get occasionally somebody that gets pulled in by this. Phishing, similar thing, but it's a vocal call. So they're calling you on the phone. It's the IRS. It's somebody's in trouble. This is your, like your electricity is going to be turned off unless you pay us this money. They always do it immediately. It's always, this is happening right now if you don't take care of this immediately. They try and get you at that point of weakness, and they don't let go until you make a mistake. Quick personal story. My grandfather had gotten caught by this. They called up acting like they were one of his grandchildren who was in jail and needed this money to be bailed out. And he, without calling anybody else, went and did it, and it cost about $2,000. So it happens. Most people have stories and know that this happens to people. Social engineering, that's kind of bringing everything together. This is more for businesses, but it can happen for people too. Humans are social creatures. We're trying to be helpful. If you get somebody that's charismatic on the other line, they can really take advantage of it. A good example of social engineering, several years back, the Las Vegas casinos, MGM, they got hacked. It was a huge thing in the news. Well, how did they get access to their systems? Somebody called up the help desk at MGM and acted like they were an employee that couldn't get access to their computer, and the help desk gave them access to the systems. So this can be a very low tech kind of thing. It's like the old con men or the snake oil salesman that you heard about centuries ago. It's just the modern day equivalent of it.
Let me just give you some broader context. We as estate planners, whether you're an accountant, attorney, financial advisor, insurance consultant, we talk to clients about, do you have a durable power of attorney? Who did you name as your agent? Do you really trust them? Are they trustworthy? Are there any issues? We talk about and often set up revocable trust to help clients that have challenges or disabilities, or just they start to get on in years, because it's a more protective tool perhaps than a power of attorney. Why? Well, in one part, you can use a separate tax ID number to differentiate it. We talk to clients about using trust protector in revocable. I'm not sure how prevalent that is. We use, I would say, almost all the time, because it's just another check and balance on whoever the trustee is. So we're having conversations with clients to safeguard their assets, to safeguard the client from elder financial abuse and identity theft. We talk about that stuff, and we should. It seems to me the stuff that we're talking about here is part of the same conversation, but it just, the professions, I don't think have really gone there yet. But as Brian pointed out, and I think Tom said it too, this stuff is going to be exponentially worse a year from now than it is now. Look at some of this, think of some of the statistics that Tom rattled off, 1,200% growth in a few years. This is going to get worse and worse. This has to be on our agenda to protect our clients. And again, as I started in the very beginning with the introduction, you don't have to go further than you're comfortable. Just raising the issues, encouraging the client to get an IT consultant. If you do no more, you've done good. But if they hear that from the attorney and the accountant and the wealth advisor, more and more clients are going to get the message and hopefully be protected. Brian, what is endpoint detection?
Endpoint detection is also known as what used to be called antivirus software. Still often is called antivirus software, but now it used to be that a new virus would come out, and then McAfee, Norton, Symantec, like it would all race around and figure out what the virus was coming from, and then to send an update out to all the machines, and then that it would then be protected from that new virus. And that still exists, but much more serious and modern threats are things that have not been seen before, also known as zero-day things. So what next gen antivirus software, or also known as endpoint detection response software, does is it looks at the behavior of the computer, not what you're doing on the computer, but the behavior of the computer itself. And if all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of network traffic going out to this unusual location, the software looks into that and says, wait a second, what's going on here? And then looks what type of traffic it is, and then can shut it down. Even if it doesn't know exactly what the threat is, it knows it's a threat, and we're going to just shut it down. And then typically your IT company is alerted to that fact if it's supported, if the business is supported, or if it's a home user, they'll get a notification on usually, like in the system tray, bottom right hand corner, that's, it's been blocked, blah, blah, blah. And so that's, it's much more accurate, and it's able to meet new current threats that are constantly changing.
Brian, inherent in what you just said that I heard was for our clients that are vulnerable, whether it's due to age, infirmity, whatever, having an IT consultant is an imperative because the client is not going to understand or react properly or know what to react or how to react to getting a notification if they even have endpoint protection. But if they have it installed and monitored and updated, consultant, you now have a professional getting the notification. I mean, it does make the case that clients that can afford it should be doing this.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think so. And real quick, let me give you a real world example of what happened yesterday to another office. We got a notification that one of the users at this other business had logged in from the Netherlands, and it was like, and immediately disabled the account. And so before we even had to look into it, his account was disabled because there's no reason for this user to be. Like, it's possible he was traveling to Netherlands, sure, but much more common, because the Netherlands is a lot of people don't know, is it's a very common area for cyber attacks and cyber crime. It's not the ones, not like North Korea or China, although those are bad too, but the Netherlands is also a really bad one. So that's a big red flag when it's countries that are on a list of known cyber threats. So his account was disabled. We got a notification. We looked into it and like saw that, wait a minute, no, his computer is at the office like it always is, and he's not there. So we were able to go in and reset his password and get him reconfigured. But how that happened was he received a phishing email from a customer of theirs that had gotten hacked. He clicked on the link and then entered his valid credentials on a site that looked like 365, right? It was not,
Wow.
but it looked like it. And so it's really important to have this stuff in place, because otherwise his account would still be hacked right now. And so the goal for what these criminals are doing, they're not so much trying to install things on your computer, although that is still common too. The much more common thing is they're trying to get access to your email, because if I have access to your email, I can then send an email from Marty, your real account, to Tom and be like, hey, we're going to change the invoicing and we're going to now wire this stuff to this account instead. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what Marty wants to do. So no problem. And so it's not that they're faking who they are. They're actually in your account. And that's the stuff that's really bad. And that's where I'm sure you've heard of it. I've seen it many, many times where the bad actors will intercept a valid email chain and get in the middle of it. It's called a man in the middle attack. And they'll change some of the details in that. So instead of don't wire the money here, which is valid, we're going to wire the money here, which is who knows where, some other country. And people do it because it looks legitimate, and it is legitimate, but there's actually, fraud and crime going on, and that money is sent and it's gone. The bank can't help you. The FBI can't help you. It's because it wasn't your identity theft insurance can't help you either, because it wasn't identity theft. They were in your account.
So one of the messages I got from what Brian just said, and that's one of the very scary kind of real world situations that you see, is you need multiple layers of protection,
Right.
because everybody's going to have it fail at some point. But if you've got multiple layers, that if plan A fails, which would obviously be ignore that phishing email in the first place, you want to have the backups so that hopefully it gets caught in the net somewhere. And that's a message to bring up to clients. Look, we all make mistakes. It happens to everybody. Having something that has your back makes a difference and can prevent a bad situation from getting worse.
Mm-hmm. And despite all the technology, and we're talking about how we can guide clients to get IT consultants to protect themselves and why it's so vital, in the end, there's still one final layer, and AI hasn't obviated that yet, and that's called gut feel. Something just doesn't feel right. Don't click on it. pick the phone and call. And we should
Right.
encourage clients to, if you're not sure what something is, call us, right? Because
Mhm.
some clients just aren't going to call somebody, they're just not comfortable. Have them call the advisor. When one of the things that I've told clients when we handle a probate and the surviving spouse is really shaken and frail, very emotionally distraught, I say, listen, for the next few months until you feel more grounded, anyone that calls to sell you anything, or to have you give them money, have them call me first. I won't even charge you. I'll just vet it and let you know. Nobody's going to call a lawyer. I've never had a follow-up call, but people have thanked me for doing that. So they should keep their guard up, and we as advisors can say, listen, if you're not sure, call us. You can get on a web meeting and look at what they have and say, no, that doesn't seem right. Let's follow up. And I think a lot of clients that have cognitive issues or aging issues, they'll be grateful to know that you're helping watch their back in addition to all the other stuff. And it's not a big deal to do. Password managers, Brian.
Yeah, so password managers are great because, like it says there, and this is 100 so true, is people typically have the same password for your email, your bank, the IRS, everything's the same or very similar passwords because it's very difficult to remember, 50 different passwords for Netflix and Amazon, all this different stuff, right? So a password manager is very inexpensive, like like $5 a year in some cases, like super cheap. And that will generate random complex passwords for you. Like, for example, I could not tell you what any of my passwords are except the one master password that I use to get into the password manager. Like, if somebody held a gun to my head and said, "What's your bank's password?" I have no idea. I really don't know. I would have to get in the password manager to find out. So, and those are having randomly generated. It's very secure. They're for relatively tech savvy people. They're super easy to use, and it's definitely worth it.
We're using in our practice as an example. I think it's 1Password, not
Yeah.
hard to use at all, and you sign into it and it gets you into all the different programs that you have. There's still some passwords you need because, and I can't explain it, you're like on the web and not, or you're not on the web, you're in the program. Tom, you could explain it better where it doesn't work, but for the most part, it's an incredible tool. We should be encouraging clients who are doing banking and all their financial stuff online, which is everybody, I think, that they should be looking into this as well. It's another safety feature.
One last point
Um,
on password managers is if you have a business password manager, have a personal one as well. Similar to the comments we had earlier, if you get shut out of your business password manager because you get fired, you move on, you don't want to lose access to your banking passwords because of that.
Mhm.
And by the way, my advice, I wouldn't use, if I'm using 1Password in my office, I want something different, which I have for personal, because I don't want the two intermixing in any way possible. So Brian, let me tell you a story about my issue with multi-factor authentication. My wife and I have a lot of stuff shared. I have 2 cell phones, she has 1. So when we get our multi-factor, we get a code text. We're running around the house looking for all 3 phones because we don't remember which phone it's on. Can you explain multi-factor and why, apart from my issue, it's a good thing?
Yeah. So multi-factor is, or also known sometimes as two-factor authentication, just means that instead of just a password, you have to provide either a code from an app on your cell phone or through a text message. Text messages are less secure now than they used to be. People are like cloning SIM cards. This doesn't happen often. It's very rare, but there have been real world examples of people being targeted, like either very powerful, very rich people who this has happened to, and so anyway, the going through an app is more secure than text message for that secondary authentication. Most people, if you do online banking, which most people do, this is common. Like, I don't know of any bank out there that doesn't require this. Same with like investments, insurance, all that stuff is multi-factor now. And um, that stuff's evolving as well. Like they're trying to get into a thing of, maybe using biometric stuff and getting away from this, but then AI that brings up a whole other thing. It's like, is AI going to be able to, like, duplicate my face and fake a biometric scanner? I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows the answer to that.
I think a lot of clients, just like Tom, I forgot who said it earlier, they get put off by this and they either don't opt in, or if they can opt out, they do. That's part of the advice we should be getting. Listen, I know this is a real pain in the neck, but you really want this. It's worth the hassle. It's
A
worth the
little bit of
hassle.
headache now is a lot better than a lot of headache later if you were to be compromised. That's the message that I try to bring across.
Yes.
And I don't know that we can bill clients, for taking a phone call about, like, help me with my multi-factor, but maybe just as a courtesy to build goodwill, it's something we should offer to do, especially for older clients or clients with challenges or vulnerabilities. And if all the advisors are doing it, the client will have a team behind them to make this stuff safer and easier to use and deal with. So Brian, we talked briefly about data backup, but maybe you can talk a little more about it. And I think just to set it up, so clients have tons of data. Think about the possibility I mentioned earlier. The Republican control in Washington, maybe they repeal the estate tax. They've wanted to do that forever. And maybe they have carryover basis. I know Jonathan Blotmacher will do a happy dance because he wrote a massive book on it. But if we have carryover basis, I think, the rates are, people understand how to deal with the capital gains tax. It's not the burden of estate planning for an estate tax. But all the data that clients have could be vital to figuring out what basis is on assets. And how do you access it? I've so often talked to people that have literally nothing backed up other than their computer, or they have everything on a hard drive sitting on the same desk where the computer is. Well, that may be fine if the computer fails, but it's not going to do you a lot of good if there's a fire or tornado, hurricane, or any kind of natural disaster, or a theft. Geez, the thief wants the laptop. They're going to take the hard drive that's sitting right next to it. Let me just share with you a little bit of what I do, and I'm not the most tech savvy of characters, but I try. So my personal stuff, and we're not saying anything confidential, Brian, so you can correct it. All our personal data is on a separate personal Microsoft cloud. And through Brian's assistance, it's backed up to another cloud unrelated to Microsoft. So if Microsoft gets compromised and taken down, and they're so big, I would hope that would never happen. It's backed up by Wasabi, which is another backup system. But being that I was a Boy Scout, the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. A couple times a year, I'll embarrass myself, but I get on a phone or a web meeting with Brian, and I let him do it. I hook up a portable hard drive to my laptop, one for business, separate one for personal, and I have Brian just generate, because he does it in 2 minutes, and for me, I'd be pulling my hair out, a backup to a hard drive, in addition to having 2 cloud-based backups, and those backups go into a fireproof safe until 6 months later I do it again. Why? Just because. Brian, talk about backups, because I think most people don't do it, and how easy you can make it, or any tech consultant can make it, for a client to get their laptop backed up.
Yeah, so they're very easy, inexpensive ways to back up data on computers or cell phones. Either one. What the common things I see with the backups is, obviously, they're just never configured at all. There's no backup whatsoever. In most cases, data can be recovered from a destroyed or corrupt hard drive, but it can be extremely expensive. I've seen instances where a business didn't have a proper backup. We had to send their hard drives from their server to be recovered, and they were able to recover it, but it was like, $7,000, right? So it's something like that.
And time.
Yeah, and time, right? So having a backup, number one, have a backup, right? Also then test it, because I've encountered other new customers over the years that are like, oh yeah, we got a backup, and you go to try to restore something and it doesn't work because either the software is old, or it's not configured properly, or more likely the backup device is broken and nobody knew because they just figured it was working. So make sure that they're tested at least once a year, ideally more than that, but at least once a year. And also to have two backups, because in Apple, Microsoft, Google's terms of service, they are very clear that they're saying this is not a backup service for your data, right? Like, it is there and it can act as sort of a backup, but if it's lost by them, yes, you would have legal recourse, but if it's a wide scale thing, good luck, right? And even if you got some money back, you're not necessarily going to get your data back. It would be, I'm not an attorney, but that sort of thing would probably be a class action lawsuit where people had real losses and they get like, $8 back, right? And you're like, here's your, so it's just, have a second copy, whether it's on a local hard drive in addition to cloud, or two clouds. So if your stuff's stored in 365, you have a backup somewhere else. It could be Dropbox, it could be Google. This stuff sounds complicated. It's not for people that understand how to do it, and it's not expensive to do.
So
Alex,
let
first of
me
all, Tom, let me interrupt. We're kind of like getting over time, but let's just kind of speed up and go through to cover some of our last few points. We've covered all those. Brian, just make a few comments about routers and firewalls. And this is not for you at your office for the attendees. This is for things clients should think about at home.
Yeah, so most people have a modem, which also has a firewall built into it, provided by their internet service provider, whether it's Verizon, Comcast, Spectrum, whatever. It is a firewall, but it doesn't. It's sort of like a dumb firewall, right? It's gonna block. Like, I wouldn't be able to like get into your network from outside your house but it's not. It doesn't inspect the data that's going in and out, especially out. So this is, I will say, this is important for like typical home users to have a better firewall. I would say it's not necessarily critical, as long as the computers themselves have some sort of antivirus software like we talked about previously. Those have their own firewall in them, and you would be fine, in my opinion, for a home user to have just whatever the internet service provider gave you, as long as the computers themselves are protected as well.
Just a quick thought, and I want to keep moving, guys. If you're a professional advisor, an attorney, and you're working at home, because everybody does, you're using now a home network that doesn't have anywhere near the firewall protective capacity that what you do at your office does. And to upgrade to a commercial quality router firewall is not that expensive. So for just pure home use, Brian, gave you some reasonable answers. But a lot of our clients do have sensitive business data, client data, and work from home all the time. You may want more. You may want more.
One last quick point before we move on. Brian mentioned that most modems and routers are decent, or at least serviceable. Well, what about the person that has a 10-year-old modem and router and they haven't updated because it's their home internet? They're not thinking about that. They haven't updated the firmware or the information in that router. So even though a current one may be okay, think about what you really have in your house. If it's old, you may be wanting to look at updating that.
And even though Tom said, for you, this is what we should be telling clients, right? Because I think this is part of a good conversation clients will appreciate. And we've seen people appreciate it. All right, we should wrap up. I hope this was practical and useful. I'd love feedback. Email me. I'd love to hear, if you're doing anything in your practice, thinking about doing it. I'd love to hear if wealth advisor or law or accounting firms, maybe even accounting firms, are going to start adding, IT consulting for their clients. Or maybe you already do it. I'd love to hear. Tom, why don't you make any closing remarks, and then we'll let Brian have the last word.
I'm going to keep it short, but I think what we've really talked about today is there's many facets to protecting the client. protecting their assets. This is just a new realm. It's like the Wild West out there still. You have new things coming out like AI constantly that change it. Clients will very quickly get overwhelmed. One of the things that to have as part of the conversation is, look, you're not looking to get everything done right now, but every step that you take will make you more protected and help protect you. So that's really the thing to bring home. Maybe just like how with planning, we say, get it in place in chunks. Do this in chunks the same way.
Right. Well, first of all, I really appreciate you guys asking me to be on this. I would also be happy to answer any questions people have for free, no charge. So just email me. It's in the, I think it's in the notes here. But the thing I'll
Tell them
say
your
is,
email address, Brian. It's Brian
Brian,
at
well, there it is, Brian at
cluxtonit.com.
cluxtonit.com. Yeah. So the thing that I always tell people is, it's like, look, the analogy I like is, it's like, compare it like same as like home security, right? So if a criminal's going down the street and they see somebody's whose door is wide open, right? They didn't even lock the door, it's just hanging open. And then the house next to it has an ADT sign in their yard. And then the house next to that has a Brinks thing in their yard, and doors are locked and the lights are off and stuff, or security lights or whatever. Like, whose house do you think they're going to go to, right? They're going to go first to the house that's wide open. Well, that's the same with this stuff, is that the cyber criminals are constantly scouring the internet for open doors, like in the same context. And they're going to go after the open doors first, for sure. So if you have just even reasonable amount of the steps that we've talked about, this ideally you'd have all of them, but at least if you have some, you're going to be less likely, and they'll probably just move on to somebody else.
And I think we have an important role to help guide clients step by step, as Tom said, to start getting on this path. And a lot of our clients are overwhelmed. A lot of clients, this is not even on their radar. They got something out of the box, they thought they're protected, and they moved on. They don't even know. So let's all educate our clients. I think it'll be a good thing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tom, and wish everyone good luck.